Dancing Between the Shadow and the Light, a message from the Intergalactic Alliance of Light Beings, with Canadian psychic medium Tracey Milne. Greetings, friends. I don't know about you, but for me the last few weeks have felt like someone else took over my memory projector and has my personal blooper reels playing in a loop. What's worse is each memory evoked seems to come loaded with mental invitations to judge myself harshly that, when indulged, lowered my vibration dramatically. Perhaps you can relate. From what I can understand, part of this blooper loop is connected to our shadow self rising to the surface of our awareness in concert with the lunar and solar eclipses, awakening both our shadow thoughts and shadow emotions. And part was the activation of a time-reliant dark energy hijack program connected to an ancient quantum reversal structure and attached to us through our shadow selves, according to The Guardian's September 8th update. A structure that used frequencies to disrupt, scramble, invert, and overlay our senses, including our sense of self, binding us through our insecurities to what was described as the dark side of the universe. A program that has been running in a 250,000-year time loop for over 2 million years, connected to ancient covenants that allowed the dark to use orchestrated catastrophes and our fears and insecurities to constantly throw us back in our evolution and ascension path. A cycle we are finally breaking free from. To learn more, I highly recommend checking out the September 8th Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. I will include the YouTube link in the description. In that update, The Guardian reveals some fascinating ancient universal history. She also explains the quantum structures used that have until recently been in place. She also explains how it has been amplifying our fight or flight tendencies and accentuating our insecurities in an attempt to lower the collective vibration and bring to the surface the worst of our human nature, not the best. Which got me thinking, we all have aspects of our character we don't like, and we all have our own insecurities, but we don't all have the same ones. So what is our shadow self really? And is it something we want to befriend or reject, absorb or transmute? What's the difference between feeling confident and capable by your own standards and feeling insecure and incapable based on the ideas, opinions, and judgments that came from outside influences? What role does our belief play in creating an insecurity or the development of the shadow self? Is it our human need to fit in with our tribe or desire to please others more than ourselves that creates the base for an insecurity to take hold, or is there something else? It was at this point in my musings that the Intergalactic Alliance of Light Beings stepped in with some deeper truths to consider, delivered, as always, in their own unique way. Enjoy! Bright blessings to you, dear Earth Star Angel. We are excited to participate in this conversation, as these are important questions you are beginning to ask in a new way, which can lead to new answers. You have asked how and why insecurities and your shadow self is formed, and we will do our best to answer you in a way that makes sense. Let's begin with some definitions. What is our shadow self? Well, according to the information available online, our shadow self is a concept from Carl Jung's analytical psychology, referring to the unconscious, darker, and repressed parts of our personality that an individual hides from themselves and others. Our shadow includes disowned emotions, repressed desires, exaggerated fears, and disowned traits that seem to be in conflict with one's consciously chosen self-image and societal expectations. While the shadow isn't inherently bad, it can manifest as insecurity, negative impulses, or detrimental behavior. Your insecurities are a representation or reflection of the unhealed heart wounds your shadow self is nurturing. What is the definition of insecurity? Insecurity is the emotion associated with a lack of confidence within oneself and one's abilities. what is the cause of insecurity and how does it form? Well, the kind of childhood you had, past traumas, past or recent experiences of failure or rejection, negative beliefs about yourself, expectations of perfection in self or performance, social conditioning, comparison to others, or having a critical parent, authority figure, sibling, or partner can all contribute to forming an insecurity. So, the source of many insecurities stems from moments in your life when your natural tendency towards learning through trial and error was interrupted or overlaid by outside influences, also known as other people's judgments or opinions of your performance. People that, for whatever reason in that moment, had a reaction that encouraged you to feel guilt, shame, condemnation, or an exaggeration of personal inadequacies. And all of that emotionally charged energy got tangled in with the memory of whatever lesson in life you were trying to learn or skill you were trying to improve upon. The younger you were when the event happened plays a big role in how long you have held this negative belief about yourself and your abilities. As a result, many of you altered your behavior or approach in order to avoid backlash the next time you tried something similar, learning to ignore or diminish your feelings in exchange for approval from others, which helped to form your shadow self. You have asked, why are so many humans willing to deny themselves in exchange for approval? Is it loyalty? Is it a desire to please, a desire to be loved, a need to be accepted? Or is it a combination of all of the above? We would suggest it's all of the above, for despite the definitions provided online, your insecurities are not necessarily only formed by negative or unpleasant events alone, nor do they form only in childhood. You are correct in intuiting that your insecurities are formed when you believe the response of outside influences more than you believe the whispers of your own heart. Heartbreak moments leave heartbreak energy that, if left ignored or unchallenged, can lead to the formation of insecurities and shadow aspects within your character and personal limitation beliefs. Often, ideas formed in childhood or heartache can be replaced in adulthood, but rarely without conscious effort. Okay, but how, you ask? From our perspective, during this time of great transformation, those currently struggling with low self-esteem could learn a few things from the cats of your planet. Let us explain, as we are in no way comparing you to animals. We are merely trying to find an analogy that will make sense to most people, so let us expand on this train of thought. Have you ever watched what happens when a dog is chastised for doing something considered bad by their human? Most often, a dog will look and act remorseful or sorry for their canine behavior, even if they don't get why it's a big deal to their human. After being chastised, many dogs will go out of their way to soothe or appease the upset human to ensure they remain in their human's good graces, often adapting their behavior to suit their human pack's needs. Now, have you ever watched what happens when you try to chastise a cat? When corrected, the average cat will give you a look that says, "I'm sorry you're upset, but don't even think about labeling me, because you don't qualify to judge me." Then, sensing the negative vibes, most cats will simply walk away from admonishment, with their head and tail held high and their sense of self intact. In the end, both creatures want love and approval. They just happen to take a very different approach to getting those needs fulfilled. One is dependent on outside approval, and the other is independent of such things. This is why we say, following the example set by your feline friends regarding independence from influence of judgment will be of great benefit to you at this time. You're currently still ensconced in a spiritual war, and what you are witnessing on a global stage level is attempts to capture your attention and the energy generated by hosting and holding strong emotion, especially topics that stir up or create a sense of uncertainty, helplessness, hopelessness, fear, condemnation of self and others, and isolation. Why those emotions? Because shadowland vibrations reflecting as strong negative emotions create a certain kind of dark energy. The very energy the dark fleet and its quantum AIs require to continue functioning. However, the tides have now turned in your favor. As the Guardian made clear in her September 8th update, the Dark Fleet are rapidly losing the ability to negatively impact humanity as their old conversion methods and quantum entanglement tricks continue to malfunction and disappear at a rapid pace. With the old covenants that allowed for those structures having expired, Source's creative energy and Source solutions now have greater freedom to express themselves in glorious new ways, and Source is doing so with great gusto and joy, even as we share these words. You should already be feeling the difference in your deeper connections to Source and a lessening or release of those old insecurities that have been running like a loop the last few weeks. However, it's not over till it's over, so you might still experience some push and pull dynamics a little longer, including a heightened sense of sadness, grief, uncertainty, insecurity, anger, disgust, disappointment, or self-depreciation until all connection to the dark side of the universe have been removed. So just hang in there. Be kind to yourself, and instead of fearing change, embrace it as you dance between the shadows and the light. Remember, a negative or limiting belief originates in the mind and is often just a thought you haven't challenged in a while, whereas a heartfelt knowingness is always there, simply shining its own truth from your core. During this time, treat yourself with kindness, understanding, and grace, just as you would a good friend, and for pity's sake, please stop comparing yourself to others, for there is no one else quite like you. If you had something horrible happen to you that is still causing you pain to remember or leaves you feeling victimized or ashamed, don't deny it, don't hate it, don't judge it. Merely acknowledge it as something you survived. Honor the person you were at the time and thank them for having the courage to live through whatever you feel has left scars on your heart and soul. Because you cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge as wounded. By simply owning your feelings, you release resistance from the equation, making moving forward much easier. Recognize that having scars merely shows your ability to heal, not your tendency to get wounded. Begin to see yourself as the hero of your own story instead of the victim of someone else's cruelty, and release the pain of the past while keeping the hard-earned wisdom gained. These few acts of kindness towards yourself will help to create a beautiful energy field of self-acceptance, one that can replace any remnants of self-doubt before rippling out into the fields around you and becoming a great benefit to the collective as a whole. A new song of creation is being sung, and a new dance between you and Source has begun, dancing you out of the shadows so that you can co-create together in the lightness of joy, not the shadow of uncertainty. We hope this message has offered you some clarity and comfort. Until next time, in the highest light of love and truth, we are the Intergalactic Alliance of Light Beings. Namaste. Presented by WhatComesNextForYou.com, Galactic Guidance, and so much more. WhatComesNextForYou.com. What's in your future?